So looking at these playoffs, well, let's start with the NL because we've just been talking about the AL so much. You look at the NL, I feel like most of it is in place. Maybe a couple questions on who's going to win some of these divisions. But what are you guys thinking? NL playoffs, who are your teams? Who are the division winners? Who's in the wild card? And let's not get too deep into like who's going to make it all the way, but what are you guys kind of thinking right now with how the NL is laid out and who's going to end up making the playoffs?
I think the divisions are pretty much set. Dodgers up huge in that division. I think what are they 17 games on the Padres now? And you got the Mets there in the East. They're up about 4 games. I'm really high on the Mets this year. I kind of think that they might be one of the only teams that can contend with the Dodgers, other than maybe the Braves. One of the only teams that has the pitching and the offense to contend with them. So I think the Mets hold on to the division, and then in the Central, St. Louis is up 7 games on Milwaukee. So I really think that they'll hold on, or 6 games. I really think they'll hold on to that as well. Not only have they been performing higher than the expectation, they've been performing to the point where you look at that team and you say, if someone else knocks out the Dodgers, they could have a chance to go all the way. And with the wild card, other people might have different opinions here, but I think that is set as well as long as the Padres can play well against the Dodgers. But I think that last spot is really contingent on how San Diego plays against these really good teams this month.
So my wild card, my playoff predictions are going to be more or less the same. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to win the NL West. Spoiler alert. The Mets are playing extremely well right now. They just got Jacob DeGrom back. I believe they just beat the Dodgers in the last series. I think that game just ended. St. Louis made an outstanding trade to get Jordan Montgomery, who's pitched really well for them. I think that was one of the like sneaky good moves of the deadline. We talked about it when we were talking about the Yankees, but they needed another impact starting pitcher, and not only did he come over, but he has pitched like a playoff pitcher. So in the wild card, obviously you got Atlanta is pretty much a lock to make it at this point. I think the Phillies look really good. They have a solid rotation. They got a really good lineup. But for the last wild card spot, I don't even know if I'm ready to make a call on that because, like you said, it all comes down to how the Padres play against specifically the Dodgers. And last time we saw them play the Dodgers with pretty much the same team, they got embarrassed. And that's not really anything new. We've been getting embarrassed by the Dodgers for decades at this point. But, we're coming up on the next series against them, and it's Yu Darvish versus Dustin May, who I don't think we ever hit Dustin May well. I'm not sure who that. I think it's Urias versus Clevenger in the second matchup, and then
Mania.
Sean.
No, it's Mania
Yeah,
on Saturday. Does it chalk that one up as an L?
Yeah. So we've already got an automatic loss in Sean batting practice Mania going out on the mound. And we play them a bunch more times after that. But at the same time, Milwaukee doesn't exactly have the easiest schedule either. So it's really a toss-up because I think the Padres are going to lose a lot of games this month, but it's all dependent on will Milwaukee lose more. They've got a bit of an easier schedule, but they haven't exactly been the most clutch team. They beat the Dodgers in a series, but they lost a series to the Pirates earlier this year. So it's a toss-up. If I had to guess right now, I'll go with the Padres. Why not? But I think Milwaukee has a serious chance of coming back up and taking it from them just because of how poorly the Padres have played against the Dodgers. But we'll see.
Yeah, and you're bringing up those Padres Dodgers matchups being really important for the Padres. They play 9 more times, and that's why there's an emphasis on that, is because we got a little over a month left of baseball, and you're playing a team almost like a third of your games. So if the Padres are going to make the playoffs, they need to at least take 3 or 4 out of those series. And the issue has been is that they haven't. They've been losing 2-1 in those series, or they've been getting swept consistently for about a season now. Because early on in 2021, they were playing the Dodgers really well. They had like a huge lead in the series between in the season series between the two, and then it's kind of started to fall off. So I think that's probably that's one of the big factors. Now, luckily, the Padres have been playing a lot better. They've probably been playing their best baseball in this past couple weeks than they have in maybe 3 months. So I think that's another huge factor. The Brewers also look kind of dead inside since they kind of sold this deadline. That's the other thing is and I kind of thought, okay, maybe the Giants would make a little run. The Giants have completely fallen off the table. They are over 10 games back from that wild card spot. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that wild card plays out. I think for the division winners, it's the 3 teams that are winning each of those divisions: the Mets, the Cardinals, and the Dodgers. For the wild card, I don't know exactly who's going to be 1, 2, 3. I mean, the Braves will be 1, and I think you're probably going to have the Phillies and the Padres in those other 2 spots. I don't know who's going to be 2 and who's going to be 3. But the Brewers could also make a little bit of a run. Now, the thing is, they have a pretty light schedule for these next couple weeks, and then their schedule gets really hard. So that's going to kind of depend. I think in 2 weeks, the Brewers might even be in a playoff spot, and they might end up losing that playoff spot. So it's a little weird for how this is going to turn out. It's going to be kind of a roller coaster in terms of the wild card for the last 2 spots in that wild card race for the NL. But outside that NL, it's kind of calm. It's kind of mellow because we're about to talk about the AL in a second. And the AL is completely different because it feels like no one. It feels like there's very few teams that are honestly even eliminated at this point. But there's only about a couple spots that are kind of being fought over in the NL.